You know what's weird? Passive scores. So we have this weird problem in D&D where it's maybe a non-problem, but something that I'd like to address, which is the idea of passive scores. Now, we also have this other principle called actionable iteration. The idea that a player's decisions should be influenced heavily by the decisions that they have and the information that they've been given. So, if you have that system in place, as a designer, you should be able to anticipate the kinds of decisions they're going to be making based on the kinds of information that you give them. Problem with passive scores is that the players are making decisions and then getting feedback, but there's no real clear connection between those two things, right? Like, the door appears to be trapped to being something that somebody figures out easily because of their passive perception isn't necessarily clear that it was because of their passive perception, which means that their ability to understand that it's a result of the decisions they made in character creation, etc., is diminished. Now, it's not a huge problem because you can just do something like, what's everyone's passive perception? Even though you already know, because then they know passive perception is relevant, then they do a thing, and they know passive perception is relevant to whatever information they get. But I think we can do one better. What if we had a system where the players at the start of each adventuring day, at the end of a long rest, just slot specific things that they can keep an eye out for, and they know that those things that are slotted are the things that their passive perception will tell them is there. So, what that looks like is the player wakes up, they have a certain number of things that they can slot, up to you, and then they choose those things, and there are certain things that require higher passive perception scores. Maybe how many you slot is based on your passive perception score, whatever. The reason this is an improvement, I think, is because now, similar to the principle we had in the class design video, where in the class design video we talked about how anticipating specific things is generally much better and much stronger in terms of driving a player experience than broad, vague anticipation. So, here's what we can do. If you're thinking about increasing your passive perception score, now we have a reason to do that. So now a player is not going to go, I want to increase my passive perception score because passive perception seems like a good thing to have. I don't know. Now it's going to be, well, if I got my passive perception score from 17 to 18, I would be able to slot a new thing, and I think that new thing would be very useful. Perhaps they've even been in a situation, because you're a good designer and you DM conscientiously, they've been in a situation already wherein that would have been useful, but unfortunately they didn't have it. But now they have the option to take it, but only if you get your passive perception to 18. So now you have a very specific character build thing that somebody wants to do, specific thing that they want to do, that they can then work toward if they'd like. And if not, oh well, because now if they don't, they're not thinking, God, why don't we know anything? They're thinking, well, I decided not to take the ability that lets me know those things, so when we get blindsided by those things, we have no one to blame but ourselves. Because it was a conscious decision, front-loaded decision, you have carte blanche to blindside them with those things whenever you want. Obviously, don't go crazy. And you want to reward the things that they do see, but also occasionally just poke at them with the things that they don't see. Because that way they have that decision to be making at all times. And if they ever decide not to do it, they decide not to do it, but they've decided consciously not to do it. So, that's how I think you can improve passive perception. I've tried to make this really quick. I'm trying something a little bit new. This is like less than 4 minutes. And that's what I'm going to go for here. Hopefully this was helpful. I'll see you in the next one. I think I like the shorter video format so far. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. Goodbye.